Welcome to the YouTube lessons on ECGs in clinical practice. I am Dr. Mrs. D.S. Gunawardana, one of the consultant cardiac electrophysiologists working attached to the National Hospital Kandy, Sri Lanka. I have been working in the same station since year 2003. Since then, I have been conducting classes on interpretation of ECGs to medical students, medical officers, and postgraduate trainees. The textbook ECGs in Clinical Practice was written and published by me in year 2019. Material in this YouTube lecture series are from ECGs in Clinical Practice. I hope this YouTube lecture series will help you interpret ECGs. Lesson 5. Analysis of arrhythmias. Arrhythmias, you know, there are two types. Tachyarrhythmias, we talk about the ventricular rate more than or equal to 100 beats per minute. Bradyarrhythmias, the ventricular rate less than 60 beats per minute. Coming to the analysis of tachyarrhythmias, tachyarrhythmias are subdivided into 4 groups depending on the QRS duration. Now you know, depending on the QRS duration, QRS complexes can be either narrow or broad. Then the RR intervals. RR intervals mean interval between two adjacent R waves. If RR intervals are regular, that is called regular tachyarrhythmia. If RR intervals are irregular, that is called irregular tachyarrhythmia. Depending on these criteria, tachyarrhythmias can be subdivided into 4 groups. Regular narrow complex tachycardia, irregular narrow complex tachycardia, regular broad complex tachycardia, irregular broad complex tachycardia. Now, let's discuss about regular narrow complex tachycardia. What are the examples? Commonest is the sinus tachycardia. Then supraventricular tachycardia or SVT. Atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction. Atrial flutter with 2:1 AV block. Atrial tachycardia is a less common cause of regular narrow complex tachycardia. Coming to the analysis of regular narrow complex tachycardia, you have to analyze the atrial activity on the baseline to find out what type of tachycardia it is. If it is sinus tachycardia, you know that the sinus P wave precedes each QRS complexes and there is 1:1 AV conduction. each sinus P wave is conducted into the ventricle. In sinus rhythm, P waves are inverted in lead V1 and AVR. And in all other leads, P waves are upright. In the presence of such P morphology, if the ventricular rate is more than 100, your diagnosis is sinus tachycardia. Supraventricular tachycardia. This is also called circus movement tachycardia. The rate can go up to 220, but in fast supraventricular tachycardia, rate can be even more than 220. If you go through the rhythm strip of supraventricular tachycardia, what you can see, QRS complex due to ventricular depolarization followed by T wave due to ventricular repolarization. Then the isoelectric baseline. Then again the QRS complex followed by T wave isoelectric baseline. QRS complex followed by T wave isoelectric baseline. You can't see atrial activity on this isoelectric baseline. You can make the diagnosis of supraventricular tachycardia. Third cause of regular narrow complex tachycardia is atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction or 2:1 AV block. Let's see what happens in atrial flutter, the mechanism. These are the atria, these are ventricles. During atrial flutter, atria beat at a rate of 250 to 300 beats per minute. Organized contractions are there. Surface ECG shows sawtooth appearance. This is the AV node. If the AV node allows each of those flutter waves enter into the ventricle and depolarize the ventricle, what you can see is a very fast, at a rate of 250 to 300, regular narrow complex tachycardia. That is called atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction. If you see very fast regular narrow complex tachycardia, two possible causes. Either it can be fast SVT as seen in accessory pathway, or it can be atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction. Now, this rhythm strip, if you concentrate on this tachyarrhythmia, what you can see, QRS complex due to ventricular depolarization followed by T wave. You can't see the baseline. Again QRS complex T, QRS T, QRS T. You can't see the baseline. The rate is 232, fast tachyarrhythmia. Then you have to suspect either atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction or fast supraventricular tachycardia. To differentiate those two, we gave a bolus of IV adenosine. What is the action of IV adenosine? It blocks the AV node. Then the flutter waves cannot conduct into the ventricles because AV node is partially blocked. Therefore, on the baseline you can see the atrial activity. So in this case, what you can see on the baseline, sawtooth appearance. Therefore, this is a case of atrial flutter with 1:1 AV conduction. Now, this CCG, this shows only limb leads. But you can see, again, regular narrow complex tachycardia at a rate of 124. On the baseline, what you can see, if you ignore those QRS complexes on the baseline, what you can see is, again, sawtooth appearance. I told that during atrial flutter, the maximum atrial rate could be 300. If the AV node creates 2:1 AV block, what will be the ventricular rate? It should be 150. Now in this case, again, this is atrial flutter with 2:1 AV block, but the atrial flutter rate is below 300. So this is atrial flutter with 2:1 AV block. Were you able to understand that point? Lesson 6. Irregular narrow complex tachycardia. What is the commonest example? Atrial fibrillation. Another example is atrial flutter with variable AV block. Now, let us try to understand the mechanism of atrial fibrillation. During paroxysm of atrial fibrillation, the SA node is not emitting impulses. It is under overdrive suppression. During the atrial fibrillation, if you look at atria, you can see tingling worm appearance. That is caused by break-in and forming multiple wavelets at a speed of 600 wavelets per minute. There is no well-organized contraction or relaxation of atria. Therefore, there is stagnation of blood within atria and atrial appendage. Therefore, patients with atrial fibrillations are prone to develop thrombi within atria and can embolize into the systemic circulation. These are the multiple wavelets. They are break-in and forming, break-in and forming. When the atrial fibrillatory waves are going on within atria, the AV node try to protect the ventricle from those unnecessary electrical impulses. Therefore, the AV node creates variable AV block. It blocks the AV node. AV node blocks those unwanted electrical impulses as much as possible. Therefore, only some of the electrical impulses enter into the ventricle and depolarize the ventricle. Therefore, the rhythm becomes irregularly irregular. So, in atrial fibrillation, why the rhythm becomes irregularly irregular? Because of variable AV block caused by the AV node. In atrial flutter also, the AV node can create variable AV block. If that is the case, on the baseline you will be able to see more sawtooth waves, flutter waves with irregular RR interval. That is called atrial flutter with variable AV block. Now look at this ECG. If you concentrate on lead 2 rhythm strip, what kind of tachyarrhythmia is it? Yeah, irregular narrow complex tachycardia. You can see RR intervals are variable. And the rate is fast, above 170. If you repeat this ECG at the speed of 50 mm per second, these irregularities will become more obvious. The diagnosis of in this case is atrial fibrillation. If you give adenosine bolus and if you do the V1 rhythm strip, as adenosine will block the AV node, you will see atrial fibrillatory waves on the V1 rhythm strip. Lead V1 is the best lead to see atrial fibrillatory waves. Compared with that, lead 2 is the best lead to see atrial flutter waves. Now this ECG, again you can see irregular narrow complex tachycardia. The RR intervals are varying, and on the baseline what you can see, the sawtooth appearance. So this is atrial flutter with variable AV block. Lesson 7. We will discuss regular broad complex tachycardia. If regular broad complex tachycardia is in sinus rhythm, or if the underlying rhythm is one of the atrial tachyarrhythmia, you have to think about the possibility of one of the bundle branch blocks, as I mentioned earlier. But if you analyze the ECG of the baseline, if you can't see atrial activities, regular atrial activities, that means it is not in sinus rhythm, no evidence of atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter or atrial tachycardia, then what you can see is the regular broad complex tachycardia without evidence of regular atrial activity. In that case, 85% of such ECGs are due to ventricular rhythms, but 15% can be due to supraventricular tachycardia with one of the bundle branch blocks. Therefore, you should know what are the features of ventricular tachycardia to differentiate VT from SVT with broad QRS complexes. If you look at this diagram, these are atria and then the ventricles. So atrial depolarization occurs from the sinus impulses emitted from the SA node, gives rise to the sinus rhythm. Ventricles are depolarized by impulses emitted from one of the ventricular focus in the ventricle. As the ventricular depolarization and repolarization are abnormal, you can see the broad complex tachycardia. During this broad complex tachycardia, which is originated from the ventricle, though the atria are depolarized by the SA node, those SA node impulses do not get opportunity to enter into the ventricle to depolarize the ventricle. Therefore, if you do the ECG, what can you see? You can see dissociated P waves. You can see P waves on the baseline, not in regular manner, not immediately before each broad QRS complex, but you can see some of the dissociated P waves on the baseline in addition to this broad QRS complexes. That is called AV dissociation. That is one feature of ventricular tachycardia. If the ventricular rate is not that fast during ventricular rhythm, one of those SA node impulses may get an opportunity to depolarize the ventricles. If that is the case, among those broad complexes you will see a sinus rhythm, sinus QRS complex. That means narrow QRS complex. That is called capture beat. If you see a capture beat among broad QRS complexes, you can make the diagnosis of ventricular tachycardia. When the ventricular rate is not that fast, this sinus impulse may get an opportunity to fuse with the impulse originating from the ventricular focus. If so, the ECG will show abnormal looking beat which is not similar to the broad QRS complexes seen during VT, or it is not similar to the sinus beat. It has a different morphology. That is called fusion beat. Therefore, if you see AV dissociation or capture beats or fusion beats in a ECG with broad QRS complexes which are not in sinus rhythm or atrial rhythms, you can make the diagnosis of ventricular tachycardia. What are the other features of VT? In AVR, I told that all the deflections are negative in normal ECG. In the presence of broad complex rhythm, if there is a tall R wave in AVR, it again makes the diagnosis of VT. Then, if you analyze lead V1 to V6 in a ECG with broad QRS complexes, broad QRS tachycardia, broad complex tachycardia, if you see dominant R waves from V1 to V6, that is called positive concordance. If you see dominant S waves from V1 to V6, that is called negative concordance. So, if you see either positive concordance or negative concordance, again you can make the diagnosis of ventricular tachycardia. Another feature of ventricular tachycardia is extreme axis deviation. Then, at the beginning of the regular broad complex tachycardia, if you can see R on T phenomenon. What is R on T phenomenon? The ventricular ectopic falls on the vulnerable period of the T wave. That is just after the peak of the T wave. That is called R on T phenomenon. If you see R on T phenomenon at the beginning of the regular broad complex tachycardia, your diagnosis is ventricular tachycardia. So, after termination or before the onset of broad complex rhythm, if there is a prolonged corrected QT interval, again you are dealing with the patient with ventricular rhythm. So those are the diagnostic features of ventricular tachycardia. In addition to that, analysis of lead V1 with the R wave is very useful to differentiate VT from SVT. But that part is not discussed in this lecture series. Now let's move to irregular broad complex tachycardia. So in this case, what you can see, ventricular rate above 100, RR intervals are irregularly regular, QRS complexes are broad. So there are three possibilities. In all three possibilities, there is underlying atrial fibrillation. It could be due to atrial fibrillation with pre-existing bundle branch block. That means patient had bundle branch block. On top of that, patient has developed atrial fibrillation. That is called atrial fibrillation with pre-existing bundle branch block. The second possibility is atrial fibrillation with rate-dependent bundle branch block. Only during the atrial fibrillation, one of the bundle branches is in conduction failure. Therefore, after termination of the atrial fibrillation, you can't see the bundle branch block. That is called rate-dependent bundle branch block or aberrant conduction. Then the third possibility is that atrial fibrillation with pre-excitation. In a patient with full Parkinson-White syndrome with pre-excitation, can develop atrial fibrillation. If so, that patient will end up in very fast irregular broad complex tachycardia. So that is the third cause of irregular broad complex tachycardia. Now we have come to the end of this YouTube lecture series on interpretation of ECGs. Thank you so much to all of you.